Welcome to the Scrum.org Community Podcast, a podcast from the home of Scrum. In this podcast, we feature professional Scrum trainers and other Scrum practitioners sharing their stories and experiences to help learn from the experience of others. We hope you enjoy this episode.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ryan Ripley with Agile for Humans and Professional Scrum Trainer with Scrum.org. I'm stepping in as a guest host for episodes highlighting the experiences of other Scrum.org professional Scrum trainers. I hope you enjoy getting to know these amazing people. All right, welcome to another episode of Becoming a Scrum Master. I'm your host, Ryan Ripley. Joining me today, fellow professional Scrum trainer, Becky. How are you doing? It's great to see you. Thanks for being here.
I'm very well, thank you. Yeah, it's lovely to be here.
Excellent. So we're going to jump right into it so that the listeners and viewers can learn more about Becky. So right off the bat here, can you share the story of how you first encountered Scrum and what motivated you to become a Scrum Master? And if there was any particular moment or experience that kind of sparked that interest or as some trainers have described it, that addiction that you just couldn't let go of this idea of Scrum?
Yeah, sure. So about nearly 10 years ago, I was deciding I needed to get a real job, so I decided to become a programmer. I was doing some programming stuff, and after doing it for about 6 months, my boss sat me down and said, "You're not that good at this. You're not. This isn't the career for you." And I'll forever be grateful to him for the next thing he said. He said, "I think you should be a Scrum Master." And I'd never heard of Scrum. I'd never heard of Scrum Master. We didn't have one for my team. And he basically had seen that my passion was not in coding. It was not in that kind of problem solving. It was in the problem solving of the team and how effective we could be and working together was much more where my eyes lit up when I was at work. That's the kind of thing that I wanted to get involved in. So he nudged me towards it. And then I basically just jumped off a cliff into the deep pool and just, that was it.
Oh, wonderful. Oh, it sounds like a great boss, actually. Hopefully it sounds like very supportive of that change to Scrum Master. And
oh yeah.
And it's wonderful to find out early on that maybe something isn't a right fit, but once you find that fit, things go well. So it's a great story, like where we actually had a good manager, a good boss, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It was the kind of moment when you know that someone is looking out for your best interests and what's going to be the right thing for your career. So it was,
It's wonderful. Was there a specific project or situation, once you became a Scrum Master, where you had kind of a eureka or a light bulb type of moment, something that made you realize the true power and potential of Scrum? And if so, could you describe that for us?
Yeah, so I think in that team where I became Scrum Master, there was a moment, maybe 6-9 months later, where me and the team were sat in a sprint retrospective, and one of the team members just said, "But what's the point of this?" And he really was having a thing where he's going, "This is an hour and a half of my time. Why am I here?" Which is a good question. We should all be asking that when we're in conversations. And I was opening my mouth to speak to do, the Scrum Master thing of going, well, let me go back to the purpose of sprint retrospectives. And before I said a word, the rest of the team started piping up with, "But we've changed this, and this is better, and we've delivered this." And they just started listing off the things that had changed and the improvements that we'd had in those few months since we started doing Scrum all together. And that was a real moment for me. I went, you've been so immersed in trying to work things out, puzzle out, why does this bit of Scrum exist and why are we doing that? And then to have that moment where the team is telling me that this has been great and this has been powerful and this has been effective was a real moment where I went, okay, you've given me my evidence.
Yeah, and it sounds like not only evidence, like they're defending the practices, which is quite remarkable, actually, to have a team of developers step up and say, no, wait, these things that we're doing with the framework are actually important.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a real moment that has stuck, like nearly 10 years later, I can still feel that that bit, and I still think about that when I'm, in the tough challenges that you're going through with new teams or with difficult products, etc.
Yeah, it sounds like a great moment of almost measurable or tangible impact, which is awesome. Thanks for sharing that. So over the years of I think you mentioned about 10 years back to now, working in a Scrum Master role or fulfilling the accountabilities, as we're supposed to say now, has your perception and the execution of being a Scrum Master evolved or changed? Are there any aspects of the role or accountabilities that you view differently now compared to when you started?
Oh yeah, definitely. Absolutely. But first, being a Scrum Master, you kind of have that cringe when you look back at, I'm sure lots of people do, when they look back at the first few months or years in the job and go, oh, I can't believe I did that. And most of that is centered around the fact that when I first started, and I think most people will be the same, is I got the mechanics of Scrum, but that's about it.
Yep.
And so a lot of what I was doing was ensuring that the mechanics were happening rather than getting the real purpose and the real underlying why. I didn't really get that at the early stages, and so I think as I've gone through more, and especially becoming a PST really like opens your eyes to when you're teaching it and you're practicing it over and over and over again, it really deepens that understanding to the point where now in the same situations when they come up, the same challenges come up, my brain goes to a different way of solving it rather than, well, what's the mechanics? It's looking deeper. It's looking into, a lot more of but what's the point of Scrum? Like, there's a reason that we're doing it. We're not doing it to just follow the words on the page. What's the point of it? And how can Scrum be that illuminator rather than it being a set of rules to follow, if that makes sense.
Oh, it makes total sense. It's amazing how, at least the way that I've heard what you're saying and kind of how I've looked at it too, because I think we're pretty aligned here, is that Scrum almost fades to the background the better you get at it. And it's really delivery and value and people and that whole, ecosphere of stakeholders and all that other stuff that goes to the forefront, and the framework kind of drifts to the back. It's still there. It's still present. We still need it, but the focus kind of shifts more to those other things. Have I captured that correctly?
Yeah, beautifully. And there's another sort of linked part of that as well, which is when you're new to it, all your energy goes on, I've got to make sure that the cogs are there and they're perfect and they're shiny. Whereas when you get later, you realize that actually, if I'm the person that's fixing the cogs, they're not going to run for very long on their own. There's also that kind of side that now I understand. When I mentor other Scrum Masters, we talk a lot about like tech debt, but not tech debt in terms of the product, but tech debt in terms of self-managing in the team. Sure. And if I go and fix that problem right now, I'm creating tech debt for later because there's not going to be self-management with simple things like facilitating the daily Scrum. If I'm always the person that steps in, I'm creating a problem for later that I'm going to have to fix. And that's kind of part of the going from the mechanics of making sure it's clicking and everything's moving to actually, that, as you say, the framework going into the background a bit more.
Yeah, it's that transition from everything moving to everything sustaining.
Yeah,
that is really powerful to see. So, that's great. I appreciate you sharing that. We're kind of bleeding into this question, and so I wonder, maybe there's some overlap here, but what is some advice you would give to someone who's aspiring to become a Scrum Master? So is there a particular mindset, a skill, a habit that you believe is crucial for someone to have success in this role?
This is a good question. I spend a lot of my time in this space. So being a PST, I'm a lead Scrum Master. So I have a team of like 26 Scrum Masters who I'm helping to like boost their careers. And the main thing that comes up again and again and again is there are actually becoming a Scrum Master or growing a career in a Scrum Master is not just about consuming knowledge. It's not just about reading books or articles or watching podcasts and videos and shows like this. These are great starters and you need those, but you've got to do it.
Yep.
You've absolutely got to do it. And the thing as well is some Scrum Masters that I'll speak to and they're going, yeah, I don't really know where to go from now. I think I've done it. And like, go, agile means continuous learning, not just for the product, but for you as a person. Like, there is always more to go. There is always more to learn. There is always more gaps. So go find the knowledge, go and talk to someone else about it, go and find other people's perspectives, go and find a mentor, find a meetup, find a colleague, anyone, and talk to them about it. And then get deep, analyze it, play with it, pull it apart, question why it's there, really dive into that knowledge and then do it, fail at it, learn from that, and then go back to the start.
Yep.
And do that kind of like we do learning using Scrum, using that continuous loop of what's the thing I want to learn, and then inspecting and adapting, going, well, what do I want to learn next? And it's really powerful for pushing you to firstly acknowledge that I'm not there. I'm never going to be, at this point where I've finished.
Yeah,
that doesn't exist. But enjoying the journey of constantly learning and constantly getting that competence and confidence to actually do it, and not just say, "Oh, I know, I know some product backlog management thing. I know user story mapping. Have you done it? No.
Then you don't know it.
Then you don't know it. You have to go and do it. I think that's really crucial, and it doesn't have to be for people who haven't got Scrum Master jobs. You can do the kind of stuff in your job.
Yep.
You can facilitate things. You can coach. You can mentor. You can teach. You can even just start Scrum. You don't have to be given permission sometimes.
Or ever, right? I mean, if you're managing a project, it can look like waterfall to the outside world, and it can look like Scrum inside the team.
Yeah, absolutely. Why not?
You reminded me of a myth that gets floated around the PST community. I don't know if this is true or not, but there's all these like little stories that get bounced around, especially at face-to-faces. And so now that we're back into being in this, basically during COVID, we switched to these virtual face-to-faces. Now I think next year we'll be back to all in person, and these stories get swapped around so much more in person. And one of them is that once when someone asked Ken on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate yourself as a Scrum Master? He said 6 or 7, that he had so much more to learn. And that whether it's true or not, or someone's passing, I believe he would do that. It seems totally possible within some of the interactions I've had, but it was such when that story was told, it was such a highlight, because even Ken, the co-creator of Scrum, would say, no, there's stuff I got to learn. Mm. And so as you're talking through, we never get quite up there, that there's always something to learn, but also do. It just, reminds me of that. And then also the famous picture of Ken at the Scrum.org headquarters, where he's pointing to the word done, and it's the point of Scrum is done. And so just learning, like, we got to get up there, but and learn, but we also have to get to done. We have to do something. Mm-hmm. And I think that's just such a powerful message for people that want to get into this role, that we're not, and I love that you brought all this up. We're not just waxing poetic on the virtues of Agile and going from meeting to meeting with our PowerPoints. We're in the trenches building stuff, and we're helping teams build stuff better. And we're learning constantly about what it means to build stuff better. And we're applying that and doing it. Oh, it's such a wonderful, wonderful message. Very good. Last question. What is the one book every Scrum Master should read?
I mean, how do you choose?
Maybe a way to frame this, because I struggle with this too. I have a desk literally full of books, and I love them all. Most of them. Some of them are bad, but most of them are great. What is a book that you would say gave you a boost as you were doing your learning, your deep dives? Was there one that just kind of made some things click?
Yeah, I love your honesty with some books are,
Oh,
put them back on the shelf, and that's good. That's good to
or
do
in
that.
the bin.
Yeah, recycled, of course.
Yes.
I think the ones that really took me to the next level were actually product books.
Hmm.
So reading Scrum Master books and Scrum books were amazing as a start, but I think the point where I got the whole why we're doing Scrum a bit more was when I started reading about product. So things like Melissa Perry Escaping the Build Trap, Eric Ries's Lean Startup, the Professional Product Owner book to an extent, but more the storytelling, I think, was the bits that like opened my mind a lot more to, but why are we doing this?
Yeah.
And what's the business value of doing it? I think those are the ones where it inspired me beyond the team level to see the bigger picture and get that, the framework's disappearing. We're seeing the bigger picture of why we're here was when I got into product reading.
Awesome. Yeah, that's I don't know if we've heard that perspective yet. And I think that's such an important one, right? The whole, if the point of Scrum is done, which, I think there's a good argument for that. Maybe the product side ought to actually influence some of that why we're doing the things. And yeah, that's great. So actually Melissa's book is on my stack. I think I have it actually, so that people don't think I'm lying. It was sitting right here on my stack.
It's not pre-prepared.
And I wasn't even expecting to talk. We didn't talk before this. I wasn't expecting to bring this book up, but I wasn't expecting it to be brought up. But this is one that I'm actually guilty of not reading sooner. And so this is on my Christmas reading for, we take a few weeks off. I will definitely be going through Melissa's book. And I think that's just such a wonderful point to understand the product side as well. Even as a Scrum Master, right? Even though you're not making the decisions, if you don't understand product management to an extent, how do you serve a product owner?
Exactly. How do you guide a team in how they make decisions?
No, I don't think you could. Well, Becky, I have thoroughly enjoyed this. Some wonderful answers here, and you actually conjured up some old memories of face-to-faces, and for me at least, and I appreciate that. It's I don't think about those things enough, and so love the fact that happened. This time is yours. Is there anything that you'd like to promote or get in front of the Agile for Humans audience before we wrap this up?
Yeah, I'd love to. So on the way that we do learning, I've set up some free meetups that do exactly that. So they're not meetups where you come and listen to someone talk. They're meetups where we do the workshops, and it's a self-directed. We choose a topic a week before as a community, and then we share some learning resources, and then we come in, share our different perspectives, do some analysis on the topic, and then practice it. And so we call it Feel the Learn because it's like a learning workout. It should make your brain sweat. It's not consumption. It's like actual application. So that's on Meetup. So follow me on LinkedIn and you can come and join us for this meetup.
Very good. We'll get some links to those workshops and Becky's LinkedIn and anything else that she'd like to promote in the description to this video. So check out the description to connect with Becky. Thank you so much. This was great.
Thank you.